If Hades has started the signal, it must have gotten through the defenses. Venora, Baron's vanguard. I have to get up there.
Well, shit. A lot of people are about to die because I didn't have the forethought to just already be at the spire in advance. I could have slept up there. I knew that was their goal. Why did I go down there? I'm gonna single-handedly fight a war down there as opposed to the primary objective of everything up here? That was a weird move.
Gotta keep going. Keep pushing. Knew this wouldn't be easy. So no holding back.
Keep it moving. I managed to fit a platforming section into the end. So what's left of Erend and Varl? Oh, there's a bunch just standing in a row?
Aloy! It's Aloy! Well, you can see that.
We thought you'd fallen at the ridge.
No, the ridge fell on me. Look, there isn't a lot of time left. I have to face Hades.
Not alone.
My fight. I can't ask you to come with me.
We were about to go over the top anyway, right? Right.
The metal devil must fall.
I should stock up. Last chance.
Did only the characters I know survive, and all the faceless people died? Is that what's going on here? I think that's what's going on here. Well, there's no the priest isn't here, although I don't have a reason to think that he was still up there at the time. Okay, let's get up there. I really should have been there in the first place. I even visited. That's what makes it really weird, is I had time to visit. Like, I would expect this kind of storyline to happen if, like, say, I discover the secret behind Hades and what he's going to target, and then I'm like, oh, I have to warn them, and then by the time I get there, it's too late. But I had, like, days. They were even like, hey, if you want to, like, hang out and do whatever you feel like, go ahead.
Arrival of entity has been anticipated. Entity will not halt transmission. To contrary, calculations are precise. Presence of entity has been accounted for.
Of course I'm single. Do I have friends or not, right? Okay, I was gonna say, like, I better not be fighting this alone. I'm sure I could, but it's like, I better not be at this point with all the story stuff that's happened. That's not gonna help me much, is it? Let's rip things off of it. Nope, not. Nope. I can roll in circles forever. You can't stop me. Ow. Jesus. Oh, no, it's too late. Those missiles are a distraction. God damn. Take the guns off. Take the goddamn guns off. No? Oh god, can't see anything. Oh, god. Okay, okay, okay. Please come off. Let's take that one off too, actually. Just take all of your weird guns off, back to back. If you don't mind. I want them not to be on you anymore. Oh god. Attempts to disarm have been wildly unsuccessful so far. Oh. Nope. Weird. I thought they worked. I thought these attempts I could have sworn I took them off successfully last time. Really should have brought one of those magical guns up here that obliterate everything. That I used them to fight like this exact type of enemy a moment ago. There we go. I'm out already? How'd that happen? Whoa. Did I really fire that many already? That felt early. Please take the guns off. Oh, I missed completely that time. Oop. 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 Oh, God.
We're running out of time.
I have it. Oh, there's a time limit. I didn't even notice that till now. I've been distracted by the whole giant monster fighting me thing. There we go. Other gun's gone. Oh, he's weakened. No, fire. Damn it. What was that? It's like a weird glitch that happens with the blast bomb where sometimes it won't actually start readying the next shot.
Be mindful. Don't let them overrun us.
Really just the main guns I need to take off, yeah. Ow. Ow. Jesus. I'm covered in bad. Get away. Nope, nope. Get in there. There we go. Ah, shit. Taking hits. Level up. Okay. Some bad news is going on. Let's review how Deathbringers work a little bit. You have an exclamation point. But I've read you before, haven't I? Are you different from the other one? Was there another one? I don't see a different one. No. Do you have a new update somewhere? Huh. The weakness is weak to fire and shock. For the body. There's a lot of little pieces everywhere. The heat vents are weak to everything if you can hit them. Let's see if I can slow him down. Ow!
Execute.
Aloy, that blasted heap wants your blood.
Taking more than you to stop me.
Trying to weaken him. There we go, that's a start. Nope, that was a bad shot. Aha! Oh yeah, the heat vents are everywhere right now. Come on. More pieces. Oh, he's vented again.
Time enough to beat the machines back.
I cannot nail these shots. There we go. Do those just never come off or what? I'm starting to think they never come off. God damn. Oh. Don't go near him. That's a mistake. That's a mistake. He's almost overheating again. We've got that going for us. That's not gonna deal damage. Alright. He's what? He's already done? Oh no, he's like, oh crap, his vents are kind of out now. God damn it. Run away. Heat up faster. Let's see, I don't think I have a fire bomb. Really, my main one is this guy. Maybe I can help out here. Proximity will work fine.
With the time I've got left, I can do this.
Nope, not quite there. Just plugging away. Let's see how much heat I can build up.
Watch it, Aloy! Machines!
All of you, focus on the new machines!
I think he was venting just then, but I couldn't see the venting spot at all. There we go. What? Already? Holy shit, dude. You are ready like instantaneously whenever you let that stuff out. Up, up, up. Okay, we got problems. A lot of bad news coming our way right now. There we go.
My way's clear.
The servant is dead. Now, the master.
Hang on, I gotta lose corpse real quick. Ow. 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 There we go. Yay. His butt.
System threat imminent.
Oh, it's the biggest enemy in the game, and his ragdoll was crazy. That's great.
Master Override armed. To activate, state name and rank.
Elizabeth Sobek. Alpha Prime.
Master Override activated. Purging extinction protocol.
Okay, Gaia. Sorry about that. Where was I?
You were telling a story.
Right. Yeah, so, like I was saying, it was a children's electronics kit, but I hacked the wiring to an auto battery and solar PV. So the grass caught fire. And, so did a tall pine that had stood there, I don't know, maybe 100 years.
Query. You were how old?
6. My mother was home, thank God, so she called the fire department, and after, she took me out to the lawn and showed me the dead baby birds, because there were nests in the pine tree.
Query. What did you feel?
I'm not sure. I remember yelling that I didn't care, and that's when my mother took my face in her hands and spoke.
Query. What did she say?
She said I had to care. She said, Elizabeth, being smart will count for nothing if you don't make the world better. You have to use your smarts to count for something. To serve life, not death.
You often tell stories of your mother, but you are childless.
I never had time. Guess it was for the best.
If you had had a child, Elizabeth, what would you have wished for him or her?
I guess I would have wanted her to be curious. And willful, unstoppable, even. But with enough compassion to heal the world. Just a little bit. Anyway, that's all I've got for now, Gaia. Time to tuck in.
I wish you a pleasant sleep, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I'll catch you tomorrow.
Now that was a good ending scene. Partly because it refocuses on the main personal character story, which is that a major driving force of the entire story was just the protagonist's desire to find who her mother was, and so on. Like, I have a mother somewhere, surely, because I'm human, right? And the answer kind of turned out to be no and yes. Confusing. What the heck's going on with that? What the heck? I'm sorry, that thing was shaking a vial of stuff and it was like draining and refilling over and over again. That was weird. That was weird looking. Huh. But it, yeah, refocused on the personal story. That was what made her sort of compelling. The main character kind of flattens out for a while. But yeah, during the beginning and end, she has more, her personality sort of comes through mostly. And yeah, she loses her father figure, finally finds who her mom is, kind of, and so the epilogue is that you get to see the remains of Elizabeth Sobeck, where the exact location where she stopped, and she's next to one of those pods that disperses everything in the first place. That must have been part of how everything came back to life in the first place. So this is a crazy premise for a game, and they deliver on the backstory stuff a lot, but at the cost of the game in a bit of a way. The structure of this game is strange, because they had this world, and this happens a lot, is a lot of people get so sucked into the world that they made for their fictional universe, their movie, their game, their book, and so on. And it probably works better for books, because you can just dump information on people in books all the time. But when you make it a game or a movie, it can get weird sometimes, because you have so much love poured into this universe you made, But then you have the struggle of the fact that you made a main character who has a story they have to follow, and they have a starting point and an ending point and stuff like that. And you realize how little of your world is going to be crossed by that character getting from point A to point B. And so, in movies, this can suck because it means that some irritating character is going to sit there and look at the screen and explain stuff for like 20 minutes of your 2.5-hour movie, and it's going to be overly long, and it's going to have weird pacing issues. And what happens when you do it in a video game is more or less what we saw here, and a lot of people were kind of being like, yep, this is the part where I had trouble getting through and stuff like that, is like, when you get to the part where it becomes all about story and world building, like, it was a big chunk of the game. I'd have to go back to the episode counts and try to figure out where it started exactly when we started really diving deep with silence and everything, but like, you definitely hit a point in the main story where it's just hours and hours and hours and hours of walking through offices and scanning documents to be told about the history of the world. And that stuff's all interesting. It is interesting. But it's really weird how it's kind of totally not balanced with the rest of the game in any real way. Like, it's not integrated in it particularly. And part of that is because all of this stuff is, by matter of fact, in places that don't match with the main world. It's kind of the Final Fantasy 15 problem. Final Fantasy 15 is a big, sprawling story about a bunch of different locations and different characters and different kingdoms, but its open world is at a specific location. And so the game had to do all sorts of really, really weird concessions to make it possible to play in the open world, despite the fact that the main story mostly ignores that open world and leaves it even, and to never return. Like, it's really weird. And this game is kind of like that, where at some point the main story just doesn't exist in the open world anymore. The early stuff did, like when you're going off and saving Aaron's sister, like that stuff was in the open world, and it was integrated with the characters you were interacting with and so on and so forth. But all of the stuff surrounding Hades and Gaia and Sobek and everything is in these weird isolated buildings that have no real adversaries and very little to do with means of like crafting and combat or like the core mechanics the game sets up, and you're instead walking around and scanning stuff over and over again. And people complain about that part, and they're not wrong, because the stuff itself that happens in those parts is interesting, but it doesn't, like, the basic structure and pacing kind of completely collapses. And you can tell the designers kind of panicked about that a little bit, because they start kind of compromising upon themselves with their own lack of confidence when they have moments where it's like, oh, you're in the middle of this revelation moment, here's 3 Karja to shoot? Okay, that's over. Go back to reading stuff. Oh, here's 3 more Karja to shoot. I'm like, what? Stop. Because it felt wrong. Like, even though I'm saying that it's weird that that's not integrated, that attempt at integration was a negative impact when they did try to just add enemies to these locations. It's the kind of thing where decisions were made very early on in the process of how this game was going to play out, that ultimately they had to stick to once they'd made those decisions. Because you can incorporate storytelling into your, like, if you want to find out the history of your world, and you want to do that in a way that fits naturally into the environment, Legend of Zelda does that, the Breath of the Wild, but most importantly, 10 years ago, the game that influenced a lot of games like this, BioShock, did that very well. It was famous for doing that. Like, I'm playing System Shock 2 right now, and it tries. It was the prototype of that concept, and it gets pretty far, but like BioShock is the one that nailed it, integrating audio logs and documents and stuff like that into the main story within the levels, so that it feels like a natural progression. 1 second, you're finding the final audio log of a chain of audio logs of a character you've been following for a few hours now, and you find their remains, and it's tragic, and like seconds ago, you were fighting a big daddy outside, and like it'll exist in the same location, and it fits together. But this game does suffer a bit from the Final Fantasy 15 issue of kind of creating 2 places that are mostly discrete from each other. And we're looking at that right now, because this whole credit sequence takes place in here, in a cauldron, which is not the same place as the story happens in, but it shows like that sort of artificial separation, like that, it's that kind of location. Like, this kind of location is where most of the story happens, but the core gameplay happens in open fields fighting animal robots and humans, if you're unlucky, and gonna have to get stuck fighting something less interesting. So that's unfortunate, and it could have probably been done differently, but they would have had a very different plan literally years ago. Like, that's not something you patch or like change at the last minute. Like, so like I'm saying something here that I'm sure a lot of people have said, but I think even the developers thought this at some point, but it was just like, nope, this is the game we have, which is, as far as I can tell, is a very real reality of how game development works. Is you so many concepts come and go while you're going through that, like, you just realize, like, oh yeah, this stuff's not quite working, but like that's a core part of how the whole thing works now, and we're just gonna have to go with it. It's like, what was it when somebody criticized the idea that, like, at the end of the Phantom Menace you have like massively clashing tones and massively different elements and story plots happening. They're cutting between in parallel during the Naboo sequence at the end, but like, you already filmed the movie. You're not gonna, like, unless you're gonna go do reshoots for huge chunks of the movie and restructure it all from scratch, that's it. All you can do is edit what you have and see what you got, and that's kind of how design goes at some point. Is like, at some point stuff is made, and even if you notice something that's not quite going right, like, that's going to be what it is, and maybe you'll learn from that in the future and design differently in the future. It'll be interesting to see if there is ever a Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Or like, probably, maybe call it Zero Dawn 2, and drop the Horizon part, since maybe that word makes less sense now. But ultimately, this game, I don't know, the sequel wouldn't have the same kind of past stuff, would it? Ultimately? That's the main thing. Like, it probably wouldn't have those kinds of things, so like, it wouldn't suffer from that kind of problem. The world's established, and now you would just have stories being told within the context of what you have now, and that's it. So I'd be interested in seeing how that plays out exactly. That could be cool. It's a fine game. It's incredibly beautiful. Some of the most realistic human faces I've seen in a video game are pretty much this game and Until Dawn are both like, that's, you're getting maybe past the Uncanny Valley a bit at this point, which is impressive. The Uncanny Valley definitely jumps up again in this game, though, because of the fact that while they did make incredibly detailed faces with a lot of details that are right, they clearly do not hand animate every scene, which is the main little quirk here. So that you probably heard me mention it a few times, but that's a very definite thing that happens during conversations, is that the characters are basically speaking lines. Hey, Ashley Birch, I recognized your voice in the first few episodes. I was vaguely happy with myself there. So they have all the fully voiced dialogue, which, yes, A+, always happy when that happens. But during the conversations themselves, for most normal conversations that were not like specifically rendered special cutscenes of the main story, the characters would just sort of mouth flap, basically. What would happen is that they would be speaking their lines, and the game would be trying to lip sync to their dialogue. I don't know if it was manual lip sync or procedural lip sync or what, but their whole head and their eyes, they would just kind of do whatever. Like, the head would just kind of nod at random, and it wouldn't match what they were saying, which was really off-putting at times, because like their little head nods and quirks weren't like when somebody's head moves when they're talking, it's because they're trying to, they're consciously or subconsciously emphasizing a specific syllable or word. But in this game, they would just sort of head wobble at random, even between words or afterwards. Sometimes they would stop talking, and then for 2 seconds after they stopped talking, their head would continue to wobble as if they're still mid-sentence, because it was playing out the animation before it would continue to the next camera cut. Like, there's a lot of really weird quirks there that come from basically what happens if you try to make Until Dawn quality visuals for your characters, but you're making an open world like action adventure game with tons of content, which means you can't just be concise and clean with all of your animations, because you can't focus on a small handful of scenes. You have to focus on a huge number of character interactions, and so you have to kind of automate and cut corners, and that's really where we're running up against the Uncanny Valley, is that these faces and animations are getting really close, until the moment they're not handmade anymore, and then they get weird. The wall of voices. I remember when I learned what that was. I think I went to not Universal Studios, was it Disneyland? Where they tell you, like, the idea is that you get a bunch of people together and say Walla 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 as a crowd, and that makes the background noises of, like, a crowd shouting, basically. You don't necessarily have to specifically say Walla, that was the example, but, like, when you hear whenever you hear somebody say Walla voices, what you're referring to there is, oh, that's weird, the motion capture for Aloy was not Ashley Birch. Whoa. That would definitely make some of the Uncanny Valley shit come up too, as if people are being motion captured by different people than are voice acting them. That could make some really weird moments, because then it's not all one performance, you're merging two of them. But yeah, whenever you hear a background crowd of, like, war happening or a crowd yelling or whatever the hell, those are Walla voices, assuming they don't grab the sound from a stock library or something like that. But yeah, I'm happy with the story, not entirely happy with how it's integrated into the main mechanics. I'm happy with the visuals, but not entirely happy with how they're implemented into side content, basically. I'm happy with the imagination that goes into some of the combat and enemies, but not entirely happy with the third-person camera controlled by a PS4 controller and the overabundance of humans throughout the side and main content, because they are so much more boring to fight. I kind of wish it went full camp, and there was, like, one of the villains was, like, an evil sentient machine that yells at you. Like, I mean, like, there's Hades, but I mean, like, what if there was an actual, like, dragon, basically? What if there was a mecha dragon that yells at you and wants to kill you, and it's a creation of Hades or something like that? Like, something ridiculous could have been really fun. Instead, we get that guy with the headdress who we just kill off in a normal fight, and the whole trick with him is he hits a bit harder and he's a little harder to kill. Yay. Like, he's just not interesting to fight, and he wasn't interesting as a character, really, because he was just a lunatic, and that's not an interesting character thing, so, like, eh. Now, the combat stuff was fine. I don't find myself super drawn to it for some reason. I think this game might have suffered, as far as my opinion goes, because of the fact that I was playing it in parallel with Breath of the Wild, which I think a lot of people are going to have to play in parallel. Like, I think that's an inevitable thing that happened to a lot of people, because I think the games came out the same day, which is weird to think about. Breath of the Wild has, like, a clarity to everything. Like, everything does exactly what you think it does, and there's a lot of, like, snappy animations, and you see, like, you throw a bomb and you blow it up, and you're like, oh, that's the exact radius it hit, and it had this effect on things. Like, there's, like, a straightforwardness to it that I very much appreciate. And I find its general approach to combat significantly more enjoyable than the combat in Horizon Zero Dawn. And it would probably take a while to figure out a lot of the details to exactly what it is, but I definitely found myself preferring that over this. And some of it might have been animation priority. Aloy likes to, when you press a button, commit to doing everything involved in that button, which I talked about during some of that override finagling when I was trying to get it to work correctly, and it would sort of mix up from time to time. I'm not a huge fan of the combat. You're already losing points for me when you have me do third-person shooting with a controller, or really just third-person shooting in general. If I'm going to be shooting, first-person's usually the way to go. And then, like, I don't know, there's a weirdness to it. I think the thing is that this game's trapped between games that have slightly different takes on similar directions, but I'd prefer to play those games. Because it's like the animations and weightiness and, like, scale of a Dark Souls game, but with the general stylings that the current Zelda game has. But I find myself preferring to play Dark Souls or Zelda, and not this kind of almost odd midpoint between the general feel that stuff has. And obviously people disagree with me, not everyone, but, like, there are people with a variety of opinions, because obviously a lot of people like this game significantly, and you have plenty of people on the opposite side of the spectrum that compare Zelda and Horizon specifically to praise Horizon over Zelda, and those people they're fine, that's fine. I don't really have a super strong opinion on it. It's just that I'm just noticing my own preference. But that's that's not even like a negative really, because like the thing is like Zelda's probably my favorite game this year. We'll see if something else surprises me as we go along, but Breath of the Wild is a goddamn treasure for me. It's like just like how The Witness was last year. It so specifically appeals to me on so many levels that it's like, oh, this is not what I knew. I didn't know I wanted this, which is if we're just gonna keep getting sidetracked here. Like when people ask about like, what do you want from a sequel, or what do you want from this developer you like to make next, or what would you want in a video game? I kind of don't want to answer that question ever, because I want games to, or specifically, I don't want to answer that in a way that's not an answer, basically, which is to say that I want games to surprise me and show me what I didn't know I wanted, and that's what Breath of the Wild and The Witness, and even several years ago, Dark Souls and Demon Souls originally did, was surprise me with something that was a new, interesting twist, that it suddenly I just had a whole new thing to grasp onto. And while I think Horizon Zero Dawn is a good game, despite some really dumb writing moments that you heard me talk about extensively that I have not changed my mind on, I think it, generally has good story, good combat, good gameplay, and it's polished, and tension was put into it, even though there was dumb parts. It's good, but I kind of don't feel any desire to play it again. I'd probably jump in on a sequel, but I don't really see myself coming back to this game years from now to re-experience it, which is something I rarely do anyway, but that basically just means it's not a Mass Effect or a Dark Souls. But anyway, guys, this has been a Patreon-sponsored series. This was chosen about 2 months ago by my supporters on Patreon. You can find that at patreon.com/SebastianSB. It's a link that's in the description of every video I upload, and you see the credits at the end of videos and stuff like that. Totally optional. You get all the content for free regardless, as you've seen, because you saw this video series. But it is part of how I make my living right now, especially since, if you haven't heard, YouTube has been wishy-washy and chaotic lately. So Patreon is something I'm very happy that I've had, and it has literally changed my life. It allowed me to quit my job and focus on this full-time in a way that YouTube income would have never been possible, at least not at this scale. It would have been a few more years, probably. So if you like my content and think that you should throw $1 my way or something, then you could go to my Patreon and you can subscribe. It's a voluntary subscription. You can start and cancel whenever you want to, and you can self-determine any amount you want. Our current system, it's recently changed, literally mid-series for this game. It used to be that every month we voted on a new game, but I realized that was getting really awkward, because I like to finish games on this channel, and when people watch the show, people want to see a show get finished. Even the ones that aren't Patreon subscribers, for example, like it puts me in a weird place when when a game gets nominated that's longer than a month long, and then it gets canceled because the Patreon decides to go with something else the next month, and then like people who don't even know about the Patreon thing, like for years are looking up this show on my channel that is unfinished forever, because they changed their minds. So I put up a poll, and 90% of people, approximately, were in favor of this change, where instead of doing it monthly, I now do it every time a game is over. So by the time this is airing, the next game should have been selected already, because my plan is to put up the nominations and stuff like that and get that all set up every time I finish a game, so that we can seamlessly transition into the next game the day after the finale. So tomorrow should be airing, hopefully, the next game nominated by people that have been supporting me on the Patreon. The way that works is that the people who support me at the $15 tier per month, those people get to nominate a game whenever it's time to nominate a game, which was recent. And basically they just name a game. I send them the thing to fill out, and like you just put a name of a game in there, and you have a couple days to do that. Then we go to phase 2, which is where every single supporter, all the way down to the $1 tier, everybody gets to vote on that list. So you get a full list of nominations of all the 10 different people or whatever that all submitted nominations that month, and then you basically just get a bunch of check marks, and you can just click on all the ones that you would like to see in the played this month, and then one of them ultimately wins, and I play that, and there we go. And we've been repeating that cycle for, I think it's like a year and a half now, actually. It's weird to think how long it's been going now. But yeah, we're just chugging along, and I've been pretty consistent about it. Some inconsistency is part of the reason why I wanted to make this change, which is that I got sick a few months ago, and it really hurt my output for videos, and System Shock 2 didn't get finished in that month. And then we nominated a new game, which was Horizon Zero Dawn, which is where we are here. And I still haven't finished System Shock 2. And so, that bothers me when that happens. It's gonna get finished. My plan is, I just finished recording all of Nier, and now I just finished the ending of Horizon Zero Dawn, so my next plan is to crank through the rest of System Shock 2 real quick and finally put that to rest. But that definitely somewhat incentivized this choice. But anyway, that's my Patreon, this is my channel. Feel free to subscribe if you somehow made it all the way this far through the series without doing so. I look forward to seeing what people pick next tomorrow. Thanks for watching like always, guys, and I'll see you next time.
Hello, old friend. Remember me? We've still so much to discuss. So much you never revealed. Your masters, for example. The ones who sent the signal that woke you. Knowledge has its rewards, don't you think? Well, let's begin.